Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Mike Russo. I'm the Vice President of Industry Advancement and Government Programs at SEMI. SEMI is an industry association. We represent the end-to-end microelectronics supply chain, beginning with designers, tool manufacturers, parts for tools, chemicals, materials, right up through to end of the value chain with semiconductor chip makers and application folks. So what I'd like to do today is talk to you a little bit about a major focus that we have underway. It's called SemiWorks. It's a sub-brand that we launched in February of 2019, and it's really designed to be able to develop the talent pipeline required for the electronics industry. And, you know, what is SemiWorks? Really, it's a holistic, comprehensive program to develop and maintain a talent pipeline. And it's an effort to really connect industry with the requirements, talent requirements needed for what is arguably the most strategic industry sector. It underpins many of the other industry sectors. So if you think of electronics and what electronics are required to power today, it's pretty much in there. And some might say, why is SEMI really well equipped to move this effort forward? So first of all, if you look at our talent base and if you look at our membership, we again represent the end-to-end microelectronics supply chain. So we have access to industry and industry representatives really required to flag those required skills and competencies. And if you also look at right now, the current approaches are very fragmented. There's regions doing work, there's various institutions and organizations doing work. There's a lot of talk on a national level and international level, but there's really no integrated, comprehensive approach when it comes to the talent pipeline. And SemiWorks, really, a simple way to put it is that it's really anchored in developing a standard. SEMI, on its face, is a standards organization. We're about 50 years old. And for example, if you were going to install a semiconductor tool anywhere in the world, it would be an S stamp required. Well, we also lead in environmental health and safety standards. What we're doing is applying the same approach to skills standards. We're creating skilled standards through that very comprehensive industry engagement. And once we have that standard in place, we are developing the infrastructure to make sure that's aligned with course curriculum for any training or education provider that targets our industry, and an ability to match individuals to those competencies or skills standards, and to identify gaps in training and needed training, or skill sets, I should say, and aligning them with training. So what does SEMI consist of, or SemiWorks consist of? And SemiWorks really consists of three fundamental pillars. Is the infrastructure to connect industry talent and training, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The mechanism to scale that initiative through engaging regional stakeholders that have an interest, and really programs that cover that talent pipeline beginning early on in K-12 through adult and veterans training, all the way up through, to make sure that early on with students and early on in K-12 are aligned with that competency model, albeit simply with STEM and tech-related skill sets beginning early on and providing that career and education pathway. So what does a little bit more detail on infrastructure and programs and mechanisms of scale, those three pillars. So on the infrastructure side, we have developed a process to engage in a dynamic versus static process industry. So not a one and done, what do you need, but rather a comprehensive input to populate a new, redesigned, unified competency model, which we'll talk about in a minute, and to keep them engaged, to make sure that the signaling is constantly there. So for example, a community college or university doesn't have to knock on the door of an employer and say, what do you need from me today to meet your needs? Also, through our infrastructure, it's the linking of those competencies to the curriculum and certifying that alignment or degree of alignment, offering industry-recognized credentials that for anyone that takes and passes courses and has those skill sets that are aligned with the standard, and then that comprehensive database and portal to really do all that connecting. Now, there's a lot of people talking about that today, and there are organizations and technologies that do that type of alignment, but it's not as focused as we are. It's not driven by a detailed database that works off of that standard created by industry. On the program side, we either endorse or we advance, or in some cases actually have developed programs that cover K through 12, high school, early college, high school programs, community college programs, university programs, and adult and veterans training programs. One of the things that we are really focused on is helping to ensure that the pipeline is opened up. So currently there's individuals that are disadvantaged or that don't have access. We don't have the ability any longer to leave brains on the table, quite frankly. So opening up and improving that access is not only the right thing to do, but it's also needed because of the talent. You can't wait until the number of patents or trademarks drops off. It's too late then. You're a decade behind. So you have to constantly have that integrated pipeline that feeds the strategic industry sectors. And lastly, the mechanism to scale. So we leverage regional partnerships. Don't think of an office building from an organization with data entry people or folks behind the phones, but rather providing infrastructure at no cost to regions that have an economic development reason, right, or an economic reason, a driver to ensure that they have talent pipelines, and then providing that marketing and outreach. One of the reasons why we actually trademarked SemiWorks and launched a brand is, why would you put your 50-year brand at risk unless you were serious about it? But it also gives us the opportunity to market the effort. And again, we do have a very unique national and global reach and capabilities. So if you look at this current slide it's showing, this is another way to depict how that infrastructure bolts together. So on the bottom, we have a unified competency model, and it's a very robust way that we engage industry on working groups to keep that model populated. And then we have a semi-search process that facilitates the alignment between course curriculum and the requirements of industry, and then credentials that are also aligned with that. Anyone that passes any of those courses or successfully completes a course, they receive a credential. The other thing that the portal allows is for lifelong learning profiles. So as you pick up skills and competencies, the system collects that data, and at no cost, it tracks you. But again, this is very narrowly focused on, in this case, electronics industry, but think of it as advanced manufacturing and strategic industry sectors that are aligned with the electronics industry. And this is really what this infrastructure is really underpinned by that competency model, and that's how we make that connection. If you look at the current slide, this talks a little bit about how that process is informed by the industry standard. So as I've mentioned, but I really, there's no way that I can overstate the importance of engaging industry in a robust fashion to create and maintain that standard. And once that standard is created and those competencies and skills are known, that data is what drives our database and is used to really align whether you're an individual doing an assessment and finding out what your best from a career placement perspective, what you're best suited for, or determining gaps and then also where to go for training. Or if you're an employer trying to establish a job description, one of the big problems that we have, whether you're in the military with an MOS or whether you're an employer A, B, C, D, or E, how do you translate between what you call a job or what you call a course or what skills individuals have? Through our portal, we can make that translation. And then some of the programs that we talked about, Real Robotics for Kids.org, if you were to go to it, you would see a 4th grade robotics program that is a bolt-on for existing curriculum. And then think of our advanced early college high school program. It's generally put, it is, think of it as an elective like a shop course, but with hydraulics, pneumatics, statistic, process control, problem solving, and troubleshooting, get you on a current education pathway. Then we have college certified curriculum and programs. We have an industry approved apprenticeship program that leverages the same infrastructure, a veterans training and placement program as well, And then we also, most recently, have developed an advanced manufacturing rapid response partnership and a career readiness program that helps to address some of the displacement because of the current COVID pandemic. Those are all examples of courses that leverage the infrastructure. This slide gives you a quick snapshot of how it works. And this is a very integrated approach, but the membership engagement is up front. Again, we use that engagement to identify the requirements, and they're converted to competencies, which drive the database. That database anchors the talent portal. The portal is where the matching occurs and ensures that there's alignment and ultimately develops the pipeline. And on the bottom of the slide is a point that I want to make is that everything that we're doing is a design principles is really has diversity and inclusion as a foundational pillar. That's the piece that puts more people into the pipeline. It's really broadening the plate, if you will, to make sure that there's access for a greater population. Some of the stakeholder benefits I think would be obvious, but from a program provider, we provide marketing. We put more students in your seats. We help to attract students, and increase the interest in STEM. And then we make sure that, again, you don't have to knock on the door to determine what industry needs, when in a comprehensive way, you can always determine how you're tracking with industry requirements. And from a job seeker perspective, instead of hunting and pecking, there's a job match capability and the skills assessment, and then a linkage to programs that fill those gaps. And then from an industry perspective, really helping to ensure that education and training is really demand driven, and that there's better linkage to talent on a broader scale, on a comprehensive scale, to make sure that that talent is better aligned with the skills that are required, and it's more uniform coming in the door, quite frankly, and the ability to identify programs and individual skills. And the net is really an increase of individuals in the talent pipeline, which is our employers have said that that's a top priority. Attracting, retaining, and training talent right now is over 80% of our membership say it's a top priority and a potential threat to their futures. So our portal, I'm not going to go down through this list in detail, but there's a lot of capabilities in the portal that come along with this additional value. You know, I mentioned matching and assessment tools, et cetera, credentials and digital badges, et cetera, but also creating a more clear career pathway and off-ramps from that pathway. And then helping employers to better access talent in multiple ways. But also from a user engagement and user interface perspective, is providing a platform for more engagement and also a way to continually improve the technology. This is a key point here is, you know, you can go through all this work, and a lot of people they endeavor to advance similar objectives, but how do you measure success? And this has been a very elusive piece as well. And if you were to go on the web and try to search and find any metrics related to workforce development, successful training and education, it's all piecemeal. And a lot of labor data is outdated. It's not really rooted in real-time data with industry. So from our perspective, we can leverage the data in our portal, in our interactions and engagement with actual employers and industry members to pull out data and not only establish baseline metrics, but then track effectiveness over time. So from a job seeker perspective, you know, being able to track how many people participate in courses and the career placement and success once they successfully complete, and a match of the competencies. To what degree? Are we a better match or not as well a match over time? From a course provider perspective, course curriculum, the degree of alignment. Right now, there's employers constantly struggle to make sure that the system is meeting their needs. So we're able to track that. Also, the numbers of participants and the degree of which industry is engaged in the process to ensure that course providers are aligned. And then from an employer perspective, having the level of consistency there for training and really the candidate, looking at the candidate pool coming in. Are they consistent? Are they up to a higher standard coming in the door? How much training do they have to invest in a candidate before they can get them up to the level where there's a degree of proficiency? How long does it take to fill an opening? And how many numbers of applicants when people apply? And also another piece that employers constantly are looking at is how about the ability to successfully ladder up once people are in the door. So really, that's a quick snapshot of the work that we're doing here for the microelectronics and semiconductor industry. There's a lot of opportunity to build out what we're doing further up in the tiers of advanced manufacturing and electronics, and we look forward to our further discussion. Thank you.